Salutations, everybody. It's Matty here today with some tea. That's hot. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, today we are reviewing the previews of Cyberpunk 2077. Yes, this is the video you have been waiting for. Everything everyone is saying through their impressions are being rounded up here through the story, the gameplay, character building, world building, exploration, questing, choice and consequence, the flaws of the game. It's all right here. Be sure to share it around. It'll be helpful and keep you from reading like 18 articles at once. You just got one video. It's easy. But before that, we have a word from our favorite sponsor.
Nice. Great upgrade.
Oh, hey, you're awake. Please take your time. Cybernetic upgrades lead to a little bit of daziness and memory loss, but according to my notes here, you've upgraded your right arm a little bit. Your left arm you treated really well. You permanently attached the Lawnmower 3.0.
Oh, this is sick. Can shave whenever I want. Beautiful.
Brilliant move. It's got a built-in light. It's got blades that won't cut your balls, so you'll never have to worry about losing it. You're gonna always be getting the best shave imaginable down there. Great move here. It also says that you've participated in our perfect package kit available at manscaped.com. It says that you're gonna be getting also ball deodorant, ball toner, so you don't have to worry about smelling down there. That's really good. Oh, and performance boxers, because who doesn't want to feel real comfortable after a nice shave? And hey, you were actually really smart. When checking out, you put in the code Matty, you got 20% off, you got free shipping for any items coming to your house. So yeah, man, you are set. You are set. Man, this thing is pretty nice. All right, so let's get things started by setting the stage with IGN. So what exactly are people playing? It is the first 4 hours of Cyberpunk 2077, but have we experienced some of this? Well, IGN was the only article that actually wrote this from what I had personally read, and I think it's important knowledge to have because some of what they're talking about we've actually already seen, so we're not as in the dark as some may imagine. I only had time for the first major phase of all of this in Cyberpunk's first 4 hours, which you might recognize from their E3 2018 50-minute gameplay demo. And I noticed this when reading some story bits from people's impressions, that we have actually seen a lot of what they've been talking about when it comes to Cyberpunk, but they experienced a lot of the before and seemingly a bit of the after. So with that knowledge, let's actually get into the previews themselves, the meat and potatoes, beginning with our origin story, or as Cyberpunk likes to call it, the life path. As a street kid, my chosen life path in the game, I recognized the name of an aerosolized adrenaline booster and was able to chat cordially with our frightening host about it. Had I come from a corporate background or been a wandering nomad type passing through Night City, I might not have known. But I thought showing off my drug lingo and agreeing to inhale might relieve some of the tension in the room as we tried to square away a deal for the stolen military tech on the table. I thought wrong. As soon as I tried to tell our pal's boss, the aggressively cyberized Maelstrom gang leader Royce, the gear was already paid for, guns were pressed to our faces. In a split second, I had made a decision, pulled the trigger of my own firearm, or tried to defuse the situation and hand over the card with the money I promised would cover the cost. I tried to calm Royce down, but it only continued south from there. So this section here is to display the choice and consequence. This is the choice that this writer had made in their playthrough. Now, how would it have panned out if they made a different choice? Well, they actually reflect upon that a little bit deeper into the article. For instance, I later learned that had I pulled the trigger on Royce, he wouldn't have shown up as a boss in the escape from the gang hideout, which we actually saw during the 48-minute gameplay reveal. Had I decided to start shooting my way into the building from the beginning, which we saw them peacefully walk into during the E3 2018 demo, I could have stolen the military gear without wasting my time with a tense negotiation that was doomed to fail. I also completely missed an optional path in which I could have stumbled on the betrayed former Maelstrom leader, Brick, whom I would have been able to free from his cell and let loose on Royce. Someone else could have taken him out for you. Instead, I teamed up with Militech. This was something we also did see during the E3 demo, which ended up making me an ally of the agent Meredith Stout, which I'm told will have some narrative consequences down the line. So look how many options there were there. Right there. That is an insane amount of freedom and choice and consequence, as well as replayability. That has me hyped. What about if you made a different choice? Maybe you didn't want to be a street kid, you wanted to be a corpo, you wanted to be a nomad. What happens there? Let's continue reading on with The Verge. Like I said, man, this article is great. Really informative stuff. When giving V his life story, I went with the street kid profile, but There's the option to be a corporate agent with the monolithic Arasaka, the undisputed corporate leader of Night City. You can also choose the Nomad path, which starts you out in the Badlands on the outskirts of the metropolis. So yeah, we did talk about the Badlands in my video earlier today. This is the 7th district that was introduced into Night City. It's sort of like Rage 2. It's a giant wasteland, and it's atmospherically different. You actually start out there instead of inside the city if you choose the Nomad path. But if you choose corporate, as we'll read later on, you actually end up in Arasaka's tower working for this company. So it's like Dragon Age Origins, one of my favorite games of all time, where your introduction to the game is different and it affects the choices later on in the title. I love that so much. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I can't say how excited I am to see origin stories in a big AAA title again. For comparison's sake, I wanted to take a look at someone who started up their playthrough as a corpo. For this playthrough, I chose to follow the corpo route, intrigued by the lure of an Arasaka body tricked out with top-of-the-line military-grade cyberware. It all feels great at first, wandering around the shiny Arasaka tower en route to meet my boss, but things quickly turn against me, eventually forcing me into a little apartment in Haywood District working with Jackie. It's here that the 3 individual stories would join up. The Nomad having found its way from the Badlands into the city-state of Night City, and the Street Kid returning to their neon darkness birthplace after spending 2 years away somewhere else. So they all meet at one point, but the difference is that your beginning is going to be a little different, and on top of that, later on in the story, apparently, based off the route you choose, there will be different choices, not only in the story itself, but dialogue. So that previous clip, as well as this one here, is from Games Radar. They're talking a little bit about the mission structure of the world, what's it like free roaming in this open world setting. I spent a little too much time watching civilians meander down the streets with a refreshing array of realistic body types, I might add, and staring at strangers having conversations that I could interrupt if I choose so. Or just wandering around various side missions, bounties, which I had not heard of at all, and other activities pop up like some kind of urban acne breakout, so it seems like there's quite a bit. IGN details it a little bit more. You can choose to free roam between missions, of course, but even as you go from one quest to the next, it quickly becomes clear that Night City is huge. As I drove around, I saw a lot of question mark icons pop up similar to The Witcher 3 on my minimap that I didn't have time to explore. These are gigs, jobs you can take from fixers as a way to earn rewards like gear and credits. So how are they going to separate standard fetch quests? Because let's be honest, even Cyberpunk won't be immune to that type of questing in game. How are they going to separate fetch questing alongside like serious side quests with multiple choices that may branch into their own paths or somehow have an impact on the story? How are they going to handle all of that, I wonder? How are they going to tell the player, like, this is a significant quest, this is something that's more important? Because it would make sense if they were side quests with question marks and then the bounty board had like a little note so you could tell the difference, because bounties may just be hunting people down or finding a missing person, whereas side quests could be something more along the lines of a story. Continuing on with quests, advertisements for in-universe products are everywhere. Cars have upwards of a dozen unique radio stations to choose from. The urban favela near my apartment is teeming with shops and food stands, etc. The quests do a great job of adding to this as well, with bigger jobs featuring multiple layers of setup, preparation, and intrigue. So these quests are multiple phases, and you'll have the chance to change allegiances numerous times during these major quests as well. You can even take side quests on the behalf of the police, not unlike Grand Theft Auto's vigilante missions, because law enforcement here is spread too thin to catch all of the illicit activity that goes on. So you can even try to enforce the law. I guess they really want you to be everyone in this game. Everything seems great, as expected, but let's break up that pace a little bit. We're gonna get into some good stuff later on, but we gotta talk about some flaws that I noticed between PC Games as well as IGN's articles, which noted some things they struggled with. It's important to mention that my 4 hours with Cyberpunk 2077 weren't perfect. I barely got a chance to use any of the hacking or stealth skills I invested so much of my first upgrade points into, such as disabling an area's security cameras, unlocking all the doors in the vicinity, and throwing daggers like a ninja, among others. Admittedly though, this is more of a time limit problem than a game problem, so we'll see if the level design holds up based on how you play. And for what it's worth, I didn't even see Keanu Reeves' Johnny Silverhand the entire time I played, so it remains to be seen how large a role he plays. And I believe CD Projekt Red had come out and said that he recorded like a ton of lines in games, so he does play a large role, it's just not early in the game. I can definitely say that in the build I played, the inventory management was a bit clunky. This was something I personally felt that The Witcher 3 struggled with some gear and upgrade screens best described as annoyingly unintuitive. So too were some of the tutorials, though at least those were short-lived, and the driving controls didn't feel particularly good either, though I appreciated the option to drive from a third-person view. But most, if not all of these issues are the exact kind of things CD Projekt Red can spend the next 4+ months ironing out. So nothing really game-breaking here. However, when it comes to PC games, they had something a little more of a core mechanic to complain about. Regrettably, the gunplay feels stiff and cumbersome, and on occasion, I found myself unable to carry out the sequence of strafes and shots I had planned out in my mind. When you do land your shots, however, it always does feel satisfying, with damage numbers, muzzle flash, and plenty of recoil all vying for your attention. So this was something that I remember people really critiquing in 2019. It seems in 2020 that's not changed. I thought the gunplay looked fine when we saw a lot of gameplay for this game, and I still do stand by that. I don't think it's going to be super good, like on the level of Doom Eternal, because I feel like this game does so many other things. There has to be a sacrifice somewhere. It looks like competent gunplay, but I can understand how some would register that as stiff and cumbersome. It's certainly not going to be like a slip and slide, as I said, as Doom Eternal, but that's something worth keeping in mind. The guns may not feel that great, but there are melee weapons. You can use your fists in game, so there are other options. Leveling up, though. Man, leveling up sounds tight. Let's get into it. Increasing your character level can grant you an attribute point. How often you get these is still being tweaked, so we don't really have an official number on that, whether it's every level, every 2 levels. With these attribute points, you can increase one of 5 main stats in the game: body, reflex, intelligence, technical ability, and yes, cool. In typical D&D terms, the first 3 equate to strength, dexterity, and, well, intelligence. Technical ability ties into hacking, while cool impacts critical damage and stealth. Having a higher cool stat grants me a few things. There are passive effects, like enemies taking longer to see me when I'm crouching in their line of sight, but it also affects the skills that are categorized as cool skills, stealth skills, for example. I can increase my stealth skill by, well, being stealthy. The more you do the thing, the better you get at it. Kind of like Skyrim, but there's a twist, don't worry. So if I sneak up behind a guy and knock him out without being spotted, boom, I get some stealth experience, which makes me even less likely to be spotted the next time around. The same goes for all other skills in the game, from blades to device hacking to rifles. Now, like I said, this is the difference from Skyrim. Here's the rub. You can only increase the skills as high as the corresponding attribute. If my cool stat is 6, my stealth skill will never rise higher than 6. So there's a gated mechanism there. To get my stealth higher, I need to improve my cool first. So this is something that I think is really smart, because in Skyrim you can be the do-anything badass of Tamriel, and that does provide gameplay freedom and flexibility, so you're not really locked into one build outside of some of the perks. But with the unlimited level cap in the game, it starts to become a problem for late game players who want to start feeling like they're very special at something, not just incredible at everything. I like how they sort of gate you off in some sense, where you can be good at a lot of things at once, but only so good unless you deeply invest in one tree or another. Every skill in the game has between 20 and 30 perk options. Wow. There are usually passive upgrades that greatly increase your combat ability. One perk in the stealth tree lets me move 30% faster while sneaking. Another in the rifles tree dramatically increases the damage I deal when I'm further away from a target, making it ideal for snipers. So yes, on top of increasing individual skills by using them, there's 20 to 30 perks for each of them. Last bit of the progression we're going to talk about is street cred, which is your reputation within the city. Completing missions and pulling jobs for people will increase your street cred, but it's not a morality system, and your street cred will only ever go up. In addition to unlocking new, tougher missions, a higher street cred will also improve vendor prices and stock. There are items in various stores that require a certain level of street cred. Character level doesn't come into play for these requirements, and it seems like you'll be able to make use of any weapon or item you pick up regardless of your character's level. But to buy something particularly fancy in a store, you'll need to be well known throughout Night City. I'm not sure if this is CD Projekt Red's way of gating you off from content where you don't take on something too high of a level too early in the game, because you will need a certain street cred for those new, tougher missions. Maybe it's just by zone, because then it becomes like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where your main story mission's at street cred level 14, and you got to do a bunch of side content that now becomes main content because you need that to go from 10 street cred to 14 street cred. So that's the only thing that I worry a bit about. Will that disrupt the pacing? We'll see. And this was just something I wanted to toss in at the end to highlight some of the freedom that's available to the player. You can go crazy in this game. With player freedom being championed throughout the demo, I came up with a crafty solution: shooting the driver in the face. This naturally drew the ire of Night City's law enforcement, who gave chase if you don't leave the scene fast enough. But leaving in a hurry while driving a futuristic Dodge Custom isn't really an option. Long story short, yes, you can absolutely go on a rampage. And I like the sounds of that because this game had a lot of inspiration from GTA. You could sort of tell with some of the cutscenes and in the latest gig trailer. And I think part of that is people who just enjoy going on rampages in the city because they feel like it. And so I like that they encourage that and allow that. I wonder how they'll handle essential NPCs. Will they make any of them essential? I would figure they would. But hey, anyway, you can go on rampages, and that's pretty cool. Anyway, this has been the latest edition of reviewing the reviews, or in this case, reviewing the previews for Cyberpunk 2077. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for your support on the latest Cyberpunk content. I've really been enjoying it, just covering one game, going all in on it, and I appreciate all of your support. Let me know what you think about what we just read together here today in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. Big thank you to all the patrons who continue to support everything I do here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.